The stars looked peaceful through the window of the Indomitable. Captain Tay sat in his command chair watching the endless darkness of space. His ship moved slowly along the border of human territory. It was another quiet patrol, the kind where nothing ever happened. Tay was a tall man with tired eyes. He had been commanding patrol ships for 5 years now. Ever since humanity joined the Galactic Council, his job was simple: stay on the border, don't cause trouble, and follow orders. The Council made it very clear that humans were guests in the galaxy, not friends. "Captain, all systems are normal," said First Officer Na from her station. She was young but sharp, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. "We should reach Checkpoint 7 in 2 hours." Tay nodded. He looked around the bridge at his small crew. There was Chief Engineer Sung, a man who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. Navigator G worked at his controls, plotting their course through the stars. Weapons Officer Yang sat ready at his station, though they rarely fired their guns. Medical Officer Mi reviewed her supplies in the corner. They were good people, all of them. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Wan. He pressed his headset closer to his ear. "It's faint, but it sounds like a distress signal." Tay sat up straight. "Put it through." Static filled the bridge. Then a voice came through, broken and desperate. "This is Valani Convoy. Under attack by Kresh marauders. Ships destroyed. Civilians trapped. Please, anyone. We need help." The signal cut out. Silence filled the bridge. "Can you locate them?" Tay asked. Juan worked his controls. "Yes, sir. They're in the Forbidden Zone, near Kresh territory. About 3 hours away at maximum speed." Not turned to face Tay. "Sir, that's outside our patrol area. And the Forbidden Zone is called that for a reason. Ships that go in there don't usually come back."
Ass.
Tay pulled up the data on his screen. The Valani were peaceful traders, traveling in family groups. They carried food and medicine, not weapons. Now they were dying while sending out a call for help that would probably go unanswered. "Contact the Galactic Peacekeepers," Tay ordered. "Forward them the distress signal." Juan worked quickly. After a moment, he looked up with a grim expression. "Sir, the Peacekeepers say they cannot respond. They say Kresh territory is too dangerous, and they don't have authority to enter that zone. They're telling us to ignore it." "What about other council ships?" asked Na. "I've sent the signal on all emergency channels," Juan said. "No one is responding. The council is also sending us a direct order: do not intervene." Tay stared at the screen. He could see the estimated position of the Valani convoy. In 3 hours, they would all be dead. Men, women, children, all dead because the galaxy had rules about territory and authority. "How many Kresh ships?" Tay asked. Yang checked his sensors. "At least 15 heavy cruisers, sir." "Against our 1 patrol ship. Can we win?" "No, sir," Yang said honestly. "Not in any normal engagement." Sung spoke up from the back. "Our ship was built on Earth, Captain. Earth gravity, Earth specifications. We're tougher than most ships out here. But 15 to 1. He shook his head. Tay looked at each member of his crew. "I won't order any of you to come with me. If we respond to that signal, we're disobeying direct orders. We'll probably be court-martialed if we survive. And we probably won't survive." Na stood up from her station. "With respect, sir, I didn't join the fleet to sit safely on the border while people died." "I'm with you." "Same here," said Sung immediately. One by one, every member of the crew stood. Ji, Yangmi, Wan, all of them.
"We came out here to make a difference,"
Yang said. "This is how we do that." Tay felt something tight in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or fear, probably both. He made his decision. 1. Send a message back to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them, so received. Responding, remember us. He turned to G. Set course for the Valani convoy. Maximum burn. Yes, sir. G's hands flew across his controls. The Indomitable turned in space and accelerated. The engines roared to life, pushing the ship faster and faster. Inside the bridge, alarms started beeping as they exceeded safe speeds. We'll arrive in 180 minutes, G reported. I'm pushing the engines as hard as they'll go. I need everything you have, Tay said. Shields, weapons, armor. Make this ship ready for war. Already on it, Captain, Sung replied, heading to the engine room. I'll give you everything Earth can build. Tay watched the stars rush past. 3 hours. That's all they had. 3 hours to reach people they had never met. To fight an enemy that outnumbered them 15-1. To probably die in the cold of space. But they were going anyway. Because 15 years ago, when humanity reached the stars, they found a galaxy full of rules. Rules about territory, about authority, about acceptable losses. The Galactic Council had millions of rules about what you could and couldn't do. But Earth had a rule too. A simple one that humans had carried from their violent, dangerous, beautiful world. When someone calls for help, you answer. No matter what, Anne sat down at her station and began running tactical programs. Yang armed every weapon on the ship. Mi prepared the medical bay for casualties. Juan kept monitoring the distress signal, which grew weaker with each passing minute. Tay gripped the arms of his command chair. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. We're going to war. The Indomitable raced through the darkness, a single human ship rushing toward impossible odds. Behind them, Earth Fleet Command received their message and sat in stunned silence. Ahead of them, the Villani convoy fought desperately to survive just a little longer, and somewhere in between. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were called Deathworlders. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and immediately everything went wrong. Alarms screamed across the bridge. The view screen showed chaos. Burning ships tumbled through space. Debris fields spread like clouds of metal and fire. Bodies floated in the darkness. Contact, shouted Yang. 15 Kresh heavy cruisers confirmed. They're circling the convoy like sharks. Tay could see 3 Villani ships still fighting. They were small, trading vessels, never meant for war. Their shields flickered weakly as the Kresh pounded them with weapons fire. Around them, the wreckage of at least a dozen other ships told the story of a massacre. Get me a channel to the Kresh flagship, Tay ordered. Channel open, sir, said Juan. Tay stood up from his chair. He straightened his uniform and spoke clearly. This is Captain Tay of the Earth Defense ship Indomitable. You are attacking civilian vessels in violation of Council law. Stand down immediately and withdraw, or face consequences. For a moment there was silence. Then laughter came through the speakers. A rough, cruel voice responded. 1 human ship. You must be joking. We are Kresh. We take what we want. Your little Earth has no power here. Go home before you join the bodies floating in space. The channel cut off. Immediately, 3 Kresh ships broke formation and turned toward the Indomitable. Weapons fire lit up the darkness. Evasive action. Nah, called out G, threw the ship into a hard turn. The crew felt the gravity press against them, but they held on. Most alien species would have blacked out from such a maneuver. Humans just gritted their teeth and kept working. Energy blasts rocked the ship. Shields flared bright blue. Shields holding at 90%, reported Sung from the engine room. But we can't take many hits like that. Tay sat back down and gripped his chair. Young returned fire. Nah, I need a battle plan. On it, sir, Na said, her fingers flying across her console. Kresh ships are bigger, but slower. They expect us to fight at range like Council ships do. What if we don't? What do you mean? I mean we go in close, really close. Use our speed and maneuverability. Get inside their weapons range where they can't track us properly. Tay looked at the tactical display. It was insane. It would mean flying directly into the middle of 15 enemy warships. Do it. The Indomitable accelerated forward instead of away. The Kresh seemed confused. Their formation broke apart as they tried to track the human ship that was charging straight at them, firing all forward guns. Yang shouted. The human ship's weapons were different from Council designs. They didn't fire clean energy beams. They fired solid rounds at incredible speeds, along with missiles that could tear through armor. The Kresh learned this the hard way. The first Kresh cruiser took a direct hit to its bridge. The second lost its engine section. The third tried to turn, but the Indomitable was too fast. Ramming speed. Tay ordered, "Sir?" G looked back in surprise. "You heard me? Ram them." The Indomitable slammed into the third Kresh ship at full speed. The impact threw everyone forward against their restraints. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. But the human ship's hull was built to withstand Earth's crushing gravity and violent weather. It was made of materials that could survive re-entry through Earth's thick atmosphere. The Kresh ship crumpled like paper. "Damage report." Tay called out. "Forward shields down to 40%, Sung reported. "Hull breach on deck 3. Sealing it now. We're venting atmosphere, but I've got it contained." Me was already moving. "Medical teams to deck 3. We have injured crew members." The Kresh were no longer laughing. They were angry now. All 12 remaining ships converged on the Indomitable. "Captain, we have a problem," said Na. "We damaged 3 ships, but there are still too many. They're going to surround us." Tay watched the tactical display. She was right. They had surprised the Kresh, but surprise only worked once. Now the enemy knew what they were dealing with. Continue evasive maneuvers. Target their engines. If we can't destroy them, we cripple them. For the next 20 minutes, the battle became brutal. The Indomitable twisted and turned through space, never staying in one place. Yang fired constantly, targeting engines and weapon systems. G pulled maneuvers that would have killed most alien crews from the G-forces alone. Sung kept the shields running at 200% capacity, far beyond their safe limits. But they were taking damage. Serious damage. Shield generators 3 and 5 are offline, Sung reported. "Hull breaches on multiple decks. I'm losing coolant from the starboard reactor." His voice came through the intercom. "Medical bay is full. We have 15 injured and 2 dead." Tay felt each word like a punch. Those were his people, his crew. "Keep fighting," he ordered. Another Kresh cruiser exploded under their fire. A 5th one limped away with its engines destroyed. A 6th lost all weapon systems and retreated. But the Indomitable was dying. Alarms rang everywhere. Small fires burned in corridors. The ship shook with each hit. "Shields at 10%, called out Sung. "One more hit, and we're done." 6 Kresh ships remained fully operational. They formed a circle around the human vessel. The Kresh commander's voice came through again, no longer amused. "You fought well, human, but now you die." All 6 ships prepared to fire at once. There was no way to dodge them all. Tay closed his eyes. They had saved some of the Villani. Not all, but some. Maybe that was enough. "It's been an honor serving with you all," he said quietly. Then Juan shouted from his station. "Sir." Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. "I'm reading. My God, I'm reading dozens of ships." The view screen flared with light as ships appeared from nowhere. Not council ships. Not Kresh ships. Human ships. Dozens of them. Cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and in the center, a massive battleship that dwarfed everything around it. A new voice filled the channel, deep and commanding. "This is Admiral Day of the Earth Defense Fleet aboard the Retribution. Stand down, Kresh forces. You fired on one of our ships? You threatened civilians under our protection? Your next move will decide whether you live or die." Tay stared at the screen in shock. The entire Earth fleet. They had followed him. The Kresh ships suddenly seemed very small and very alone. Admiral Day's voice continued calm and cold. "You have 10 seconds to power down your weapons." The Kresh didn't wait 10 seconds. They opened fire on the nearest human ships. It was the last mistake they ever made. The battle changed in seconds. What had been a desperate last stand became something completely different. The Earth Defense Fleet moved with precision and overwhelming force. Admiral Day commanded from the bridge of the Retribution, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Next to him stood Commander Yoon, a woman with steel in her eyes, who had fought in every major engagement since humans reached the stars. Communications Officer Sue transmitted on all frequencies, making sure every ship in the sector knew what was happening. All ships. Formation Delta, ordered Day. Frigates, begin rescue operations on the Volani convoy. Battle cruisers, engage remaining Kresh forces. I want this over quickly. The Kresh commander realized his fatal error. He tried to retreat, but human ships were already cutting off escape routes. Kresh vessels that had seemed so powerful against one ship now faced 40. They're trying to scatter, reported Yoon. Should we pursue? Yes, Day said simply. They fired on civilians. They fired on our ship. There will be consequences. The Kresh fleet broke apart, each ship trying to flee in different directions. It didn't help. Human ships were faster. The Earth Defense Fleet had learned from centuries of war on their home planet. They knew how to hunt. 3 human destroyers chased down a Kresh cruiser. They didn't just fire from a distance. They got close. Using tactics that seemed impossible to the Kresh, one destroyer took hits to its shields, while the other 2 flanked and crippled the enemy engines. The Kresh ship spun helplessly as human Marines prepared to board. Marines ready, sir, reported Marine Commander Ho from the assault ship Thunderstrike, requesting permission to board enemy vessel. Permission granted, said Day. Secure their command center. I want their logs and communication records. Ho grinned. His team had trained for this. Marines in heavy armor launched from their ship into the cold of space. They crossed the distance in seconds and cut through the Kresh hull with plasma torches. Inside, the Kresh crew found themselves facing humans in close quarters. It was not a fair fight. Humans had evolved on a death world where everything wanted to kill them. They were stronger, faster, and more aggressive than most species in the galaxy. The Kresh, who had terrorized peaceful traders for years, suddenly understood what terror felt like. Enemy vessel secured, Ho reported 10 minutes later. Minimal casualties on our side. The Kresh are surrendering. Meanwhile, the main battle continued. 2 Kresh heavy cruisers tried to make a stand. They positioned themselves back to back and concentrated their fire. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually damage the human fleet. Then the Retribution fired its main guns. The Kresh didn't understand human weapon technology. They used clean energy weapons that were regulated by council laws. Humans used kinetic weapons that violated 3 different weapons treaties. When a ton of metal hits a ship at a significant fraction of light speed, regulations don't matter much. The first Kresh cruiser simply ceased to exist. The second lost its entire starboard side and began spinning out of control. Target destroyed, reported the weapons officer aboard the Retribution. Second target disabled. Day nodded. Move to the next target. No mercy for those who fire on civilians, on the Indomitable. Tay watched in amazement. His ship was barely holding together, listing to one side as Sung worked frantically to keep life support running. But they were alive. His crew was alive, and the Earth's fleet was winning. Captain Tay, came Admiral Day's voice over the comms. Hold position. We're sending a repair ship to you. You did well, Captain. Very well, sir. I disobeyed direct orders, Tay said. Yes, you did. We'll discuss that later. For now, focus on keeping your ship together. While the battle raged, medical frigates moved toward the damaged Volani convoy. Dr. Young commanded the lead medical ship, the Mercy. She had converted a cargo hauler into a mobile hospital, and now she put it to use. Scan for life signs, Young ordered. I want every survivor found. Her scanners showed 3 Volani ships with life signs. 2 were breaking apart. 1 was on fire. Normal procedure would be to wait until the ships were stable before sending rescue teams. But Dr. Young wasn't interested in normal procedure. Prep the rescue pods. We're going in, Doctor. Those ships are unstable, her assistant warned. They could explode at any moment. Then we'd better be fast. Move. Rescue pods launched from the Mercy. They latched onto the burning Volani ships and cut through the holes. Inside, they found Villani families huddled together, barely alive. The atmosphere was gone. Fires burned in the vacuum. Metal groaned as the ships tore themselves apart. Human rescue workers rushed through the dangerous environment. They carried Villani survivors through hard vacuum, using their own suits to share oxygen. They braced collapsing bulkheads with their own bodies to let families escape. When one rescue worker's suit was damaged and began leaking, he simply held his breath and kept working. "We have 147 survivors so far," reported Young. "But we're running out of time. The main ship is going to break apart." "How many are still inside?" 32. Young made her decision. "I'm going in personally. Prep emergency evac for the rescue teams. Led a team into the dying Villani ship. The corridors were twisted and dark. Bodies floated in zero gravity. But Young pushed forward, following the life signs on her scanner. She found a group of Villani children trapped behind a collapsed wall. Here she called to her team, "Help me move this." The metal was hot and heavy. In Earth gravity, it would have been impossible. But in zero gravity, with human determination, they shifted the debris. 20 children floated free. Young gathered them, holding 5 at once in her arms, and began the retreat to the escape pod behind her. The ship began to break apart. "Go, go, go," she shouted. They made it to the pod with seconds to spare. As they launched away, the Villani ship exploded in a ball of fire. Young looked at the children she held. They were crying, terrified, but alive. "You're safe now," she told them gently. "We've got you." By the time the last crushed ship surrendered or was destroyed, the human fleet had rescued 203 Villani survivors. Every person who could be saved was pulled from the wreckage. Admiral Day surveyed the battlefield. Debris from crushed ships floated everywhere. The Villani convoy was saved. And not a single human ship had been destroyed, though many were damaged. "Commander Yoon, begin recovery operations," Day ordered. "Get me casualty reports from all ships. And someone get Captain Tay a beer." He earned it. But even as the fleet celebrated their victory, Sue looked up from her communications station with a worried expression. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding to know why we engaged in military action without authorization. They're calling this an act of war." The celebration stopped. Everyone looked at Admiral Day. He smiled coldly. "Tell them we'll be happy to discuss it. In person, plot a course for Council space." The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Ambassador G had ever seen. It stretched upward like a cathedral, with seats for representatives from 200 different species arranged in a circle. Each seat floated on its own platform, adjusted to the gravity and atmosphere preferences of its occupant. G stood alone in the center on a platform meant for those being judged. Above her, below her, and all around her, alien eyes stared with expressions ranging from anger to fear to curiosity. She wore her simple Earth uniform and stood straight. Refusing to show any weakness, the council speaker, a tall being named Velthrin from a species that looked like walking trees, raised 3 of its limbs for silence. "Ambassador G of Earth, your species has violated 13 interstellar laws. You engaged in military action without council authorization. You destroyed ships in territory where you have no jurisdiction. You escalated a minor piracy incident into a potential war. What do you have to say?" G looked up at the countless faces. She had prepared a speech. She had consulted with lawyers and diplomats. She had memorized council regulations and treaty clauses. Then she threw it all away and spoke from her heart. "I want to show you something," she said. She activated a holographic projector. The original SOS from the Villani convoy filled the chamber. The desperate voice begged for help. The sound of weapons fire echoed. Children screamed in the background. "This signal was sent on all emergency frequencies," G said. Everyone heard it. The galactic peacekeepers heard it. Council ships heard it. You all heard it. And what did you do? Silence filled the chamber. "You debated," G continued. "You discussed territorial rights and jurisdictional authority. You formed committees to study the problem. While you talked, People died. Children died. Entire families were wiped out because the Kresh marauders knew that no one would stop them. I'm set into so from I'm sen I'm after son There are proper procedures. Laws exist for good reasons. Then what is the purpose of your laws? G asked. What is the purpose of civilization if not to protect those who cannot protect themselves? You have laws about territory and authority, but what about laws about basic decency? About helping those in need? A representative from the Kresh Empire, one of the few Kresh not currently in human custody, spoke up. The Villani were in disputed territory. They knew the risks. They were carrying food and medicine, G shot back. They were families, and your people slaughtered them for cargo that wasn't even valuable. Earth forces killed Kresh warriors. You will pay reparations. Your warriors fired first. On civilians. Then on our ship, when we tried to help. You want reparations? You're lucky we're returning your survivors at all. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species supported Earth. Others condemned them. Many seemed torn between admiration and fear. Velthrin called for order again. The Council has prepared a list of demands. Earth must issue a formal apology. You must pay reparations to the Kresh. You must dismantle your military fleet to comply with Council regulations on ship armaments, and you must promise never to engage in unauthorized military action again. G felt anger rise in her chest. Dismantle our fleet? The fleet that just saved 200 lives? Your fleet violated weapons treaties. Your ships carry illegal armaments. Our ships carry weapons strong enough to actually protect people. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you don't want a fleet that can actually do something when civilians are dying. Before Velthrin could respond, the chamber doors opened. A group of Villani entered, led by an elder named Savani. They moved slowly to the center platform where G stood. Savani was old, his blue skin marked with the scars of a long life. His eyes were wet with tears. Council Speaker Savani said in a shaking voice, "Permission to address the council." "This is highly irregular," Velthrin began. "Let him speak," said a voice from the upper seats. Other voices joined in agreement. Savani looked around the chamber. "I am Savani. I am a Villani trader. I have traveled the space lanes for 60 years. I have 3 sons, 7 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. 5 days ago, we were all going to die. The Krish were killing us, and no one came to help. No one." He turned to G. Then one human ship appeared. One ship against 15. They did not ask about territorial rights. They did not debate jurisdiction. They came because we needed help, because it was the right thing to do. Savani pulled out a small device and activated it. Holographic images filled the chamber. G saw scenes from the rescue. Human ships ramming Kresh vessels. Marines fighting through burning corridors. Dr. Young carrying Villani children through explosions. Captain Tay on the bridge of his broken ship, refusing to retreat. They came knowing they would die, Savani continued. They came anyway. And when their fleet arrived, they did not ask us for payment. They did not demand treaties or trade agreements. They pulled my grandchildren from a ship that was tearing itself apart. They held my great-granddaughter while she cried for her mother, who was already dead. They gave us food, medicine, and shelter, asking nothing in return. The old Villani turned to face the full council. "You say Earth violated your laws, but you sat safe in your seats while we died. These humans risked everything to save strangers they had never met. I ask you, who truly understands what civilization means?" The chamber fell silent. Many representatives would not meet Savani's eyes. "The Villani Collective has taken a vote," Savani continued. "We officially name humanity the Guardians of the Outer Rim. We pledge our support to Earth in all matters. And we ask the Council, what kind of galaxy do you want? One where laws matter more than lives? Or one where someone actually answers when the innocent cry for help?" Savani bowed to G and led his people from the chamber. G stood alone again, but she no longer felt alone. The council debated for 3 days. The chamber was divided. Some species wanted Earth expelled. Others wanted Earth as allies. Some wanted to use humanity as mercenaries, to do the dirty work the council was too afraid to handle. Finally, Velthrin announced the decision. The council has reached a compromise. Earth will not be expelled. You will not be required to dismantle your fleet. However, Earth will operate as independent peacekeepers. You will have no council authority and no council protection. You will answer to your own laws, not ours. You may act on your conscience, but the consequences will be yours alone. She considered this. It meant Earth would stand alone. No allies, no backup, no protection from council politics. But it also meant freedom. Freedom to act when others would not. We accept, G said. As she left the chamber, alarms began ringing. A priority message came through on all channels. A colony world was under attack. Millions were dying. The message ended with a desperate plea. Please, is anyone out there? G didn't hesitate. She activated her communicator. Ambassador G to Earth Fleet Command. We have a distress call. How fast can we mobilize? Admiral Day's voice came back immediately. Already moving, Ambassador. We'll be ready to deploy in 1 hour. G smiled. This was who they were. This was who they would always be. Then let's go save some lives. The Earth Defense Fleet moved through space like a spear thrust into the darkness. Every ship humanity could spare was part of the fleet now. Admiral Day commanded from the Retribution, his face grim as he studied the reports coming in from the colony world. It's bad, said Commander Yoon quietly. The entire northern continent is gone. We're reading massive energy signatures, unlike anything in our databases. How many survivors? Asked Day. Unknown. Sensors are being blocked by some kind of interference, but we're picking up faint signals from underground shelters. If there are people alive, they're running out of time. In the engine room of the Indomitable, which had been rapidly repaired and rejoined the fleet, Chief Engineer Sung stared at the data with disbelief. Captain Tay, these readings don't make sense. The weapons that hit this colony are centuries beyond anything we've seen. Our shields might not even slow them down. Tay looked at his crew. They were tired, still recovering from their last battle, but they were ready. We saved the Villani. We'll save whoever is down there too. The fleet arrived to find ruins. The colony world had been beautiful once, with blue oceans and green forests. Now fires burned across continents. Cities were craters. The atmosphere was thick with ash and radiation. And waiting in orbit were ships that made the human fleet look like toys. Contact, reported the sensor officer aboard the Retribution, counting 300 vessels. Ship design unknown. Energy signatures are off the scale. Admiral Day studied the tactical display. He had fought in dozens of battles, but he had never seen anything like this. The enemy ships were elegant and terrifying, covered in weapons that hummed with barely contained power. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of predatory fish. Get me a channel, Day ordered. A face appeared on the view screen. It was humanoid but wrong, with too many eyes and skin that seemed to shimmer between different colors. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music and grinding metal at the same time. I am Executor Vesh of the Vexkar Empire. You are trespassing in our feeding grounds. Leave now, or be consumed with the lesser species below. Feeding grounds? Day repeated. This is a colony world. There are civilians down there. There is food, Vesh corrected. The Vexkar have slept for 5,000 of your years. We are awake now and hungry. This galaxy is ours. It has always been ours. You are cattle who forgot their place. Day felt ice in his stomach. This wasn't raiders or pirates. This was genocide. You're killing millions of people. You're harvesting resources. What you call people, we call nutrition. Now leave or join them in death. The channel cut off. Commander Yoon turned to Day. Admiral, we can't fight this. We're outnumbered 6-1, and they have superior technology. If we retreat now, we can warn the Council, gather more forces. Day looked at the planet below. He could see the underground shelters on his scanners. Refugees from a dozen species huddled together in the dark waiting for someone to save them, just like the Volani had waited. "How long until those shelters fail?" he asked. 6 hours? Maybe less? 6 hours. If the fleet retreated, got help, and came back, those people would be dead. Every single one of them. We hold, Day said firmly. "Sir?" "I said we hold. Not one step back. We stand between those civilians and that fleet, and we buy them time." He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, combat formation. We're going to war." Captain Tay heard the order and smiled grimly. "Here we go again," he muttered. "All hands, battle stations." Admiral Day opened a channel to the Vexcar flagship. "Executor Vesh, this is Admiral Day of Earth. You want those people? You'll have to go through us." Vesh laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Foolish mammals. You will die for nothing." "Well, maybe," Day replied. "But you'll remember us." Vexcar attacked. Their weapons were terrible and beautiful at once. Energy beams that could cut through ships like butter. Missiles that split into 1,000 smaller missiles. Shields that absorbed and reflected attacks back at their source. Human ships began dying. The destroyer Courage exploded in the first volley. The frigate Hope lost all power and drifted helplessly. The cruiser Defiance took a direct hit and broke in half. But the Earth fleet did not retreat. They fought with everything they had. Captains rammed their ships into enemy vessels. Weapons officers fired until their guns melted. Engineers pushed reactors past the point of meltdown to squeeze out more power for shields. On the planet below, the refugees watched the battle through their shelter sensors. They saw human ships burning in orbit. They saw the fleet being slowly destroyed. And they saw that, despite the impossible odds, the humans kept fighting. Then something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing from all over the galaxy. They weren't military vessels. They were trading ships, colony transports, even civilian yachts. And they were from dozens of different species. The Volani came first. Their small trading ships were no match for the Vexcar, but they came anyway. They formed a shield around the more damaged human vessels, using their own ships as barriers. Then came others. Species that had watched the council debates. Species that had seen the recordings of humans saving the Volani. Species that had been inspired by the idea that maybe, just maybe, someone would stand up to evil. They weren't warriors. Most of their ships barely had weapons. But they came. A message came through to Admiral Day from a ship called the Peaceful Wind, commanded by a trader named Kelvin. "Admiral, we're not soldiers. We're just traders and families. But we saw what you did for the Volani. We saw you standing up to the council. Now you're facing death to protect people you've never met. We can't let you fight alone." More voices joined in. "This is the merchant ship Stardancer. We're with you. Colony Transport, New Dawn. Our weapons are weak, but we'll stand. Science vessel Curiosity. We're not leaving." Day felt tears in his eyes. "All ships, welcome to the fleet. Let's show these bastards what civilization looks like." The tide turned not because the Allies were strong, but because they were many. The Vexcar had never faced an enemy that simply refused to be beaten. Every ship they destroyed was replaced by 2 more. Every attack they launched was met with desperate courage. Captain Tay, barely keeping the Indomitable together, saw an opening. The Vexcar flagship's shields had a weak point. It would take a suicide run to exploit it. "Nah," he said quietly. "Get everyone to the escape pods." She understood immediately. "Captain, no. That's an order. Get them off the ship. You have 2 minutes." As his crew evacuated, Tay set course for the enemy flagship. He pushed the engines to maximum, then beyond. The ship began shaking itself apart, but it was fast. So very fast. "This is Captain Tay to all ships," he transmitted. "It's been an honor." The Indomitable slammed into the Vexcar flagship at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion lit up the entire battlefield like a newborn star. When the light faded, the Vexcar flagship was gone. And for the first time in their ancient history, the Vexcar Empire felt something new. Fear. Executor Vesh stared at the destruction. These creatures, these humans and their allies, were not acting rationally. They were not following the rules of warfare that every advanced civilization understood. They were fighting with raw emotion, with desperation, something the Vexcar had not encountered in millennia. They were fighting with hope. Retreat, Vesh ordered. His fleet began pulling back, still firing but no longer pressing the attack. Admiral Day, barely conscious on his damaged bridge, gave the order to pursue. But Commander Yoon put a hand on his shoulder. "Sir, we won. They're leaving. We saved them." Day looked at the planet below. The shelters were safe. The civilians were alive. And floating in space around them were the burning hulks of human ships, each one a monument to courage. 3 days later, in a hospital ship, Captain Tay woke up. He had been rescued from an escape pod, badly injured but alive. The first thing he saw was a small Villani child standing by his bed. She was one of the children Dr. Young had saved. She held a flower in her small hands. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for coming when no one else would." Tay smiled and took the flower. "That's what we do," he said. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Vexcar had retreated. Humanity and their allies had stood against impossible odds and won. The Council was in chaos, trying to understand what had happened. But the people understood. They understood that courage mattered, that compassion mattered, that one species willing to stand up could inspire thousands. On Earth's moon, they built a monument. It listed the names of every human who had died in both battles. The inscription was simple. They answered the call. And across the galaxy, a new phrase entered common language. When someone asked why they should risk everything for strangers, why they should stand against impossible odds, why they should care about people they had never met, the answer was always the same, because that's what Deathworlders do.